next, Session 3, The Media of Web 3.0, a shifting landscape in the digital age. This session is brought to you by Broadcasting Engineering Consultants, India.
Welcome back from the break, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our third session, the Media of Web 3.0, a shifting landscape in the digital age session, kindly sponsored by Bessel. To moderate this session, please welcome Mr. Harish Pillai. Mr. Pillai has been with Red Hat since 2003. He has held many roles as currently head of Open Source Program Office, or APEC. In this role, he and his group work with the greater open source community to engage the APAC region with government and C-level executives and various industry verticals on issues around open standards, open data, open source, and how all these can bring critical value to the respective entities. He's an avid hashman, a ham radio operator, and hosts many events at teaching the next generation on all of this around open source and tech. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your moderator for this session.
Hi, good day. Good day, everybody. I'm very pleased to be here and to present to this panel entitled The Media and Web 3.0, a Shifting Landscape in the Digital Age. We have heard many speakers and, especially the younger generation who are leading the pack in that space. What does that really mean for many of us? Today's panelists include four distinguished individuals: Mr. Arnaud Simon from France, Mr. Ajay Mishra from India, Dr. Amal Punchihewa from New Zealand, and Mr. Andy Quested from the UK. So my name is Harish Pillai, and I am from Singapore. I have been in this internet space for a very long time. I first got onto the internet in 1986 when it was called ARPANET. So fast forwarding to today, the session has the phrase Web 3.0. I'm sure there will be many reactions to that phrase, Web 3.0. What does that mean? But more about it later. All of the usual forms of media, print, broadcast radio, broadcast TV, have been struggling to find a sense of relevance, trust, and viability with the rapid growth of the internet and the user-generated content. This is leading from the democratization of access to both broadband and high-speed internet, whatever you want to call it, 5G, satellite internet, doesn't matter what it is. It is getting to you in a very rapid pace. How should these institutions, print, media, and so on, which are essentially quintessential brick and mortar 20th century institutions, as we are very familiar with, how are they going to be responding to the shifting goalposts and economic models of what the internet brings? Does what brought them to where they are today bring them to where they need to go to tomorrow? There are a lot of ideas and thoughts around that. Many people are trying many different things. Some of it will succeed, some of it will fail, but experiments need to be tried. How could all of these be built together collaboratively to build trust and accountability and raise the level of engagement with society and populations especially, and the demographics that are coming with the population shifts as we see around the world? How would these the people that we're serving see the benefit from broadcast media. Now on to Web 3.0, which I said I will allude to in a bit. Is it a buzzword? Are there any useful definitions of what Web 3.0 is? It seems that Web 3.0 it seems to be primarily driven by a perceived notion of a temporal timestamp, just like Web 2.0 was sort of planted on the time frame between 2001 to 2003 as the start of Web 2.0. So it seems that after about 20 years, we need to have another one. But is that really what is necessary? Is that what we're trying to achieve? So having to do this temporal type of time stamping seems to have some value for some of us, but does it really matter to the society at large? What is it that we're trying to achieve for the society that we're all trying to serve and be part of? The increasing centralization of the internet, which was seen in the last decade or decade and a half of the Web 2.0, needs to be addressed. There is a thread that says that Web 3.0 is going to be decentralizing everything across the board. But is that really what that we need? Because all of us need to have access to some things. A lot of the things we need to keep it for ourselves in a secure manner and so on. So there are many challenges to all of these considerations, and we are learning together with everybody on the planet as we move forward. Does it make sense, therefore, to use a phrase, a hybrid model of the internet? Some parts of it is privately kept by you, your data, it resides with you, and some of it you use with services provided by somebody else. So it is a challenge across the board that we need to figure out what to do best. So with that in mind, I would like to invite our four panelists, and I'll introduce one by one. And when I introduce you, please, gentlemen, make your opening remark and introduce yourself as well. So the first person that I would like to introduce is, excuse me, is Arnaud Simon. He hails from France. He is the founder of the organization called, let me just get the name of the organization correct, In and Out Stories. So Arnaud, over to you.
Thanks very much, Harish, for this introduction. I hope you can hear me correctly. Yes. I'm very happy to be with you this morning for me, because it's early morning here, and very happy to talk about this topic. Web 3.0. What does it mean exactly? I think it means freedom. Maybe wrap up in one word. It's the freedom to choose, the freedom to pay or not pay the content you want to watch. It's about personalization also of the content, and it's really about the fact that you don't want to be imposed anything anymore. You really want to have a kind of flexibility in what you're going to watch and how you're going to pay for it. And clearly the shift that especially I can experience in my area, which is sports, is really that we are going from the cable era, I would say, like Sky or ESPN Plus or Canal in France, to the OTT era, to the platform era, where really in that new world, you can personalize what you want to watch. You can decide, what kind of subscription you want to get. The freemium model is really going up to the roof right now. If you get a kind of entry ticket that is too high or too restrictive, you just go out. You don't want that. You want to taste it. And then most probably then you're going to upgrade your subscription. And probably this is even more true for your younger generation. If you look, at what's happening in esports, esports is clearly now an inspiration for traditional sports. In esports, the younger generations, they don't want to pay for like a rigid subscription. They're going to get into a game, first of all, probably on the free access, and then they will upgrade with some tools and tips and stuff, and they're going to pay for that because that's exactly what they want. And so we're not anymore in a kind of push model. We're really in a process now where people, they want really to be the owner of their content proposition. And I think this is absolutely key to understand that. And that's why, more and more sports properties, once again, I will talk about sports because this is my expertise. So all the big leagues, you can talk about, NBA, NFL, and I think Premier League will come to it also, is to build your own digital ecosystem. And you are going to build your own digital ecosystem, your own digital proposition. Like it can be an OTT platform where you're going to deliver your own content. It's not about replacing your existing deals with broadcasting partners. It's about complementing them. It's in some dark markets or with some additional content, and also because that's the way to be embedded also in their proposition. I always make this comparison, and sorry if it's a little bit weird, but if you still produce your music on vinyl, you're not going to be on Spotify. So you need to have a digital proposition that is ready to be embedded. And what we have experienced in the past, where you have some channels, integrated into a bouquet in the cable era, the next step will be, okay, I've got my Wimbledon app, I've got my NBA app, and this app is going to be embedded in the homepage of Amazon or Netflix. Someday, I'm pretty sure Netflix will get into sports that way, or Apple TV or Sky or whatever. So this is really the migration we can see. And if you look at the big networks, look at ESPN, for instance. ESPN lost more than 20 million subscribers out of 100 in the last 5 years in the traditional cable subscription model. At the very same time, they have launched ESPN Plus, their digital proposition, and they managed to get back 15 million of subscribers. So you can really see the shift there. Another example, which is, I think, massive, is when NBC shut down NBC Sports, the linear channel, at the end of 2021. Why? Because they really want to push very hard Peacock. Peacock being their digital extension proposition, and because they really want to accelerate the migration of subscriptions and viewers into their digital proposition. So everything is going very fast. And to finish, I will have this. I was lucky enough when I was at Discovery to work very closely with David Zaslav, which is now the big boss, of Discovery and Warner Media. And he once told me, Arno, what we are doing is really the journey we want to build is from, viewers to subscribers to members, is really to get our viewers into our clubs, with their ownership card, with exactly what they want to watch, and we want them to feel comfortable. We don't want to impose them anything, and I think that's a great way to explain what's going on right now. So to finish, I would say more what I said at the beginning. Web 3.0, it's about freedom.
All right, thank you, Arno. Let me now introduce Mr. Ajay Mishra. He's a global technology leader from India. Ajay, please introduce yourself and your opening remarks on this topic. Over to you.
So, we had a drastic situation in last couple of years, and Corona came and probably changed the world for next 100 years or so. And I generally tell people that the way Corona had, if I may use the word, negative impact on the human race, the next 2 to 3 years would be equally or almost having a more bigger impact positively on the human race because of the technology advancements. 5G is on the roll right now, and 5G is not just a technology; it's an ecosystem. So it comes along with artificial intelligences and the blockchains and the cryptos and the AR, VRs, and you name the technology, it's out there. Now, when we come, specifically, apart from 5G, we tend to hear Industry 4.0, we tend to hear, Web 3.0, and all these terms that are now floating in the industry, trying to summarize the change or the tsunami of change that is going to come in next 2 to 3 years in single words. Uh, when we talk about in principle web 3.0, uh, with all this machine learnings and the artificial intelligence that is coming in, the whole industry ecosystem, and specifically on the media side, is going to have a a big impact, not just from the perspective of the consumers, but also from industry within. And if we see, if we just talk about, the impacts, from a technology perspective, the blockchain or artificial intelligence or crypto will have the impact on the on this whole industry per se. So in my opinion, I think this is a great session that I look forward to, where we would be discussing the shifting landscape in the digital age. And I think this whole event is at the right moment, uh, from a time perspective, that Corona is receding, and the impact of technology, at least in my opinion, would be increasing on the lives of human beings. So that's my opening comments on this session, Harish, and look forward to discussing more as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajay. That's a good set of introductions from your perspective. Let me now introduce Dr. Amal Punchihewa, who is a broadcast engineering consultant from New Zealand. Amal, please introduce yourself and your opening remarks on this topic. Over to you, Amal.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So, kia ora. I'm from New Zealand. In my few minutes, what I would like to do is give a kind of the perspective from more from the broadcasters angle, and also connecting with the theme of the session, because we are looking at this the Web 3.0 for the media. So how that's going to impact or interact, or what it's going to, how it's going to influence the media. So I would like to sort of expand that to a little bit more, because the media, when you say media, it, like as you introduced at the beginning about the broadcasting, that that's a part of that as well. So when today the media, it can be public service media, or it could be even commercial media. It's all impact everything. And also when we are talking about Web 3.0, yes, I'm also find it difficult to find this what it is, how to define that, and it's harder to define from that temporal perspective, because there is no real boundary point where it's going to change from one to the other. And this is very evident in recent times with the rapid advancements in technology, because if you look at Web 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0, they are much related to the connectivity. And today we have already achieved a high level of agnostic nature. So we don't care how it reaches, but what we want is the connectivity, but that needs to be affordable and that needs to be safe. So my discussion, I would like to take on the path of what's called what are the challenges and the opportunities for the media, for the broadcasters, because broadcasters have been in the last nearly last 2 decades trying very hard to be in par with the needs of the audience, and so that we have seen in countries like Australia and New Zealand, we have what's called for the broadcasting Preview Plus. So it is there is no gatekeeper. Free to access, you can high level of personality, so you do not see difference between the linear TV or broad over the air or through the catch-up service. So they come seamlessly to us. And also we are now looking at even further going into the other areas. So I'm sure we can discuss in our rest of the time later on. So how this Web 3.0, which is going beyond just connectivity, which is fueled by other advances in technology such as AI and those things, but also keep in mind that there is the inclusivity, protection, and then I'd like to later refer to some of the points that the Honorable Prime Minister mentioned from Fiji, and also the other ministers about the misinformation, disinformation, because it's a major issue which is harder to manage, and hopefully we don't want to open up another sort of a problem for the public, for the globe, when we are going into a fairly virtual world. Are we pushing people into a more uncontrolled area where their well-being is not looked after? So though we are talking about like they have the freedom, they have the access, the personalization, but they become more isolated in that sense and going into the problem. So with that, I'll hand back to you, Harris. We can have a more discussion later on. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Amal. That's useful context. I think we are swimming in a lot of acronyms, plus a lot of version numbers. So do we need any of these things? So let me now introduce our fourth panelist. His name is Andy Quester. Andy, please introduce yourself and your opening remarks, please.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you to everybody, and especially to Wilhelmina, who always asks me to attend these sessions. I think it's about the third one I've done. I'm going to break with tradition. I'm going to show a couple of slides, but a bit of video as well. So to put it in context, I'm a Caucasian male in my mid-60s, got fairly short hair, wearing a dark T-shirt. If it's possible, could you put the video up for me, please? The PowerPoint. And just move on straight to the next slide.
To the table, they were fixed to the floor. So I had alone.
It should have audio on it, but it's got captions, so we'll just let the captions run. We won't stop it.
That's what they
could say, and you'd be right to ask, what's wrong with charity? I'll tell you what's wrong. It sees us as victims. It's society that's disabling. If the world was designed a little better, we wouldn't need help. We could support ourselves.
That clip's from a BBC programme that was bringing disabled talent, disabled production teams, and disabilities to the forefront. What we are seeing is a world that's very much designed for what I would say able-bodied people. And what we have with the opportunity of a brand new, if you like, revamp of the internet, Web 3.0, if you want to call it, is a chance to look at design, a chance to start to think about how we see and hear and participate and especially interact. David's song was really interesting, but approximately 1.5 billion people on the planet would not have heard it. There are also about 2.2 billion people on the planet who have sight impairment. And I hate to say this to all our panelists here, that as we get older, we will need more assistance in some of this media options, whether it's motor function, whether it's hearing, seeing. We've got to learn from others who have taken this journey slightly before us. And the one thing I'm very keen about is gaming. There's a great statistic that gamers age at the same rate as everybody else in the world. And some of those gamers are now in their early 70s and are trying to compete with teenagers. So what they've done is said to the gaming manufacturers, make the consoles more adaptive, make the games more adaptive, let us have more options. And now if you look at some of the games that they're rating, they have amazing accessibility options. We've got to expand our options. It's not about sight and sound, it's about motor function. If you ask me to do something to interact with content and I can't do it because I can't move fast enough, then I'm missing out. You're being exclusive. And universality. I mean, what was great was Arno's discussion about viewers, subscribers, and members. Viewers tend to be very sit back. You can go to just stay on the next slide, please, if you could. Go back to the next. We're going backwards. Viewers. That's it. Just stay on this slide for a couple more minutes. Viewers tend to be very sit back. Subscribers start to demand more than a viewer, and members certainly want to be fully inclusive, and they want every option, no matter what their status is. And I always say media must be born accessible. It's not just an afterthought. So if you could move on just to my last slide, which is just a sum up of what I'm saying. What we've got here is let's call it XR, extended reality. We have opportunity to move into a very different space with a new paradigm of storytelling. And by storytelling, I don't just mean drama and fiction. I mean documentary, news. It's all about telling a story. It's all about narrative. It creates amazing opportunities for navigation, no matter what the genre is you're talking about. It opens up a far more immersive experience. But without design, approximately a third of the world's population could be excluded. And I just want to put the last one up. He said just to remind people that extended reality must not become excluded reality. So I'm going to pass back now. So I should say my background is in content production. I was an editor, and so I'm a program maker more than an engineer. But of course, coming from the early days of television, they were very, very similar. So I'll hand back now to Hanish. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Andy. I think that's a good set of initial comments from all of my fellow panelists. Let me pose this question to all of you and see how best you want to be able to answer this. Can we agree on what Web 1.0 was supposed to be? From your understanding, I mean, we have all lived through it, I'm sure all of us have. What do you think what Web 1.0 was? And from when to when, roughly? I mean, it is still continuing. It didn't end. But what is 1.0? So that everybody in this session here and whoever is watching this in the future is able to get, oh, this is what this group of people thought it was. So what do you think 1.0 actually meant?
Could I give an example from what happened when I was working and the web came up? And I think one of our director generals in the BBC said, "Over his dead body, would the BBC.co.uk ever exist?" And if you now have a look at the BBC.co.uk and BBC.com, you can see exactly how wrong he was. But I think if I was going to say something from a user point of view, 1.0 was just was fun. It was something new. It didn't offer you anything you wanted to do, but it was just a different way of maybe sending a message to somebody, doing a bit of chat, or actually sending something from home to work, or even worse, work to home. But other than that, I don't think it did much. Other than I would say established connectivity. It began to establish the idea that we could have a connected world. I'm sure others will have a much better point of view than me.
Anybody else want to add to that?
Maybe I can add a line here. So, simplistically speaking, Web 1.0 was more of a, readable web. And Web 2.0, you were able to, right in on the internet from a very, very simplistic term. So that was quite a major difference between Web 1.0 and 2.0. Thank you.
Yes, Anand, go.
Yeah, maybe if I can add something, I fully agree with what Andy AJ just said, and maybe Web 1.0 was kind of the 2D dimension, I would say. Then Web 2.0 3D, and then with Web 3.0, we are getting into this possible metaverse universe where obviously you create a kind of fourth dimension. So that could be also a way to describe this evolution.
Amol, something you wanted to say?
Yeah. I just wanted to add. I would like to explain that, or how I see that, or I like to interpret. So the Web 1.0, even at that time, we were not sure it was Web 1.0, but the web was like, okay, there's a means of making a connection, and then once you made the correct connection, there are some content, and then you very sort of I would say in a very boring way you consume them, so I think that's what has changed over the time, because the two important things is that, so there's a kind of a connection you have to purposefully make it, and then every time you have to make it, and then like harder to make it, and then some boring content.
Okay, I think I'm hearing the four of you. The thing that stands out to me is that it was about connections, about making connections. That was what that drove a lot of the interest in the 1.0 space. But all the connections were done by individuals creating their own personal websites, and maybe there were companies that were creating a website, as Andy was saying, and some companies that put their brochure on the website as static documents, so that hopefully someone sees it as it's like looking at the yellow pages. If anybody on the call remembers yellow pages, or a phone directory for that matter, it was essentially automating a little bit of that, but it has since changed significantly. So there was this comment that was made, or the word that was used, called metaverse. What would that mean for all of the stuff that we have been doing all along? I'm sure some of you would have come across and would remember Second Life. Is Metaverse a reincarnation of Second Life into a third life? And how does that impact the media from that perspective? And is that really a manifestation of this thing that we now call Web 3.0, or some of us call Web 3.0? So anybody want to pick that up? Anna, why don't you pick that up, because I think you were talking about media that is changing to represent. And
I think it's Andy was talking about extended reality or augmented reality, and I think once again I will stick to sports, which is my area of expertise. Clearly, we can see there that a new dimension is coming. So you will experience what's happening on the pitch, but on top of that, or beyond that, you will also build an augmented experience with more statistics, probably some virtual games. We can even imagine at some stage that this virtual metaverse experience of sports can be disconnected from what's happening on the pitch. So that's super interesting, because once again it's a question of being for a sports proposition to be as immersive as possible, and we were talking about that, the fact that you just don't want, sometimes you want to sit back, okay, but most of the time you want to be part of the story, you want to have an influence on the story. We have seen some experience like in Formula E where you can, if you are a fan, you can activate what they call the fan boost for a car, and make it faster. So that kind of stuff, and maybe at some stage some influence on the rules or on the players' changes. I mean, all that stuff is important, and I think metaverse is probably a way to once again to enhance your experience and make you be part of it, because you don't want to be passive anymore. And once again, this is probably something that came also from the esport inspiration, especially for the younger generation. That's my understanding of it.
Amal, go for
Yes.
it.
Yeah, I think we had the term immersive experience from both Andy and Arnold. And so I think that answered the question of the blurriness, and we are sort of migrating from Web 2.0 to 3.0. The media and the broadcasting has been working extensively and already offering what's called immersive experiences in both audio and video now. And so like like some of the other things that would happen with this metaverse would be like it can be used in education and in training. So there are so many other sort of use cases, applications for the metaverse. And but yeah, definitely the media could benefit from that too. So I like to link to what Andy mentioned about the accessibility part of it, because again, we worked in the last few years globally, especially under the ITU, to not to forgetting the people with hard of hearing or visually impaired, how we can use exactly this Web 2.0, and then which is changing now, to provide access to information. And so as a broadcaster, as a media, especially the broadcaster, we have been doing three major functions, which is the providing information, trusted information through a proper editorial, education, and the entertainment. So we do all that, especially in when it's come to the media, the sports, which has very impactful implication. So we are providing that immersive experience already.
Thank you. Let me take that statement and adjust it a little bit. So what Arnold was saying about games and playing games and so on, and what Amal was saying about immersive aspects. So would all of you think of or imagine a situation where you may be wearing a headset of some sort? You actually physically walk into a stadium, a football stadium, for example, maybe Qatar 2022. Maybe it's not going to happen in that form, but let's say a World Cup tournament is happening. You're wearing the headset with video in front of you. You're sitting in the stadium. Because one of the things that we have all experienced is when you watch football on TV, you get different angles, you get replays, you get all kinds of stuff. When you're physically sitting in a stadium, it's just one view in front of you. You don't get to zoom into the players. You don't get to see any of the other things. You just what you experience in person. Would a immersive scenario complement something like this? Would that be something that you can see happening in the future? That means when I go for a watch a game, I'm going to be having headset. I'm going to sitting there. I'm going to be able to hear everybody else while I can see replays and so on playing in front of me. Do you think something like that is a reasonable expectation of what the shifting landscape in the digital age could possibly mean?
Since I said something earlier, I'll wait for others to comment, but I have a few things to add later on.
All right, Andy.
Yeah, I mean, can I just remind people of how well 3D TV worked? And the fact was, people just didn't want to wear the glasses, and if you already wore glasses, people didn't want to wear two pairs of glasses. But having said that, we've all seen the stories now of people with contact lenses that are becoming heads-up displays. We're seeing much more small devices remind people that, think about hearing aids over the last 10 years. They've gone from rather large, cumbersome battery-operated things to almost implants. But I think that, yes, the idea of being able to walk through a game, to be able to share that experience with your friends, whether they're remote or actually sitting next to you physically. And also, I mean, what Amal was saying, that one good thing about established broadcasters is they know their content. And Arno, you would say, and you can anticipate what's going to happen, so you can be there before it happens. Whereas if sitting in the stadium, you miss half the game. Because you can't see it, and you certainly can't anticipate because you can't see the other angles that director with 20 screens in front of him is already looking at. But that does take you to another level. As soon as you can do that, you're going to have some sort of guidance. Otherwise, sitting in a stadium or walking through with a virtual headset is going to give you exactly the same experience, only a partial experience. So they're my thoughts on that anyway. So.
Just a quick input here. By the time this becomes, this headset thing, walking into a stadium and watching a match, a reality per se, where everybody is doing that, the headset itself would have transformed. It wouldn't be the same, like we see today. So it might end up in being a eyeglass, or maybe one part of the eyeglass. It will change tremendously. So in my opinion, I think I can see that future, but the devices would definitely be different.
Yeah, it will
Thank
be
you,
a very
Ajay.
slow move.
Sorry, Amal, you were saying it's a slow move?
No. So what Ajay added to what Andy said, yeah. So we because he reminded that one time we thought, oh, 3D TV is going to be the TV, and also, so there was a time actually even the goggles. I thought, okay, that's going to provide another. No, it won't. But slowly, it might be like my normal glasses could produce that one. And also, I think Andy gave one example. We have done quite a lot of trials on that in a venue. So you can do because Ajay mentioned about the 5G. So you can do a venue casting using the 5G, and to those who want to wear that, give that missing angle of that one. So these are very limited application, and but specialized application to extend that to give that further immerse their experience. And also the home, it will be funny everyone to wearing these goggles and watching that. So however, so that's why the current level of immersive experience that we provide is quite satisfactory for the broadcast industry. And the last point is when it's come to accessibility, that's what we do with audio description, which can provide onto a third, what's called the second screen, because let's say there is a person who cannot see, and then we could have the description of that visual audio description, and then so that we are not excluding, as Andy said, so many living with those disabilities.
If I may, yeah, thank you. If I may add something, fully agree with what has been said. The thing is that technology in itself is not necessarily a good selling point. Andy was talking about 3D TV. The problem with 3D TV is you wanted to impose to people to buy a 3D TV, and they just bought an HD TV, which cost a fortune already, and there was no content behind that. It was just a technology, but in reality, there is a very, very limited of hours produced in 3D. So I think we know that technology is going faster and drive the people habits, but I think we need to be very careful in our industry that technology should serve the story and serve a better experience, and if possible to realign the pace of the two. If you have and in sports, that's very true too. Clearly headsets and all that sort of stuff can be a hurdle, but anyway, if you can deliver an immersive experience thanks to technology, and if as a fan you feel like you can have an impact, or you can have a better experience on watching your favorite sport, then it's a different story. But just technology to watch differently the same thing without any impact, I don't really believe in it. And to finish on that, I think it means also that we talked about also the content and the narrative. It means that the narrative should also evolve at the same speed as technology. And in sports, sometimes the live format, even the rules, is not changing fast enough, to my opinion. And this is why sometimes they struggle to keep the younger generations engaged because of that. So it's really a combination between technology, experience, and narrative. And if you mix the two together, then I think you can have a super powerful experience.
Thank you for that, Anna. I think the bottom line, what you're suggesting is the narrative. What is the story we are trying to tell? What is the experience that we're trying to sell? How that is going to be delivered is going to be decided by a set of things, technologies, cost, and a whole bunch of things, including enabling and empowering those who have disabilities, visual and audio, right? So how would any of these, in some ways, change the media from a landscape perspective? Because we have been in the digital space for a very long time. It's nothing new about the digital aspect of where we are. But how would all of these change media? Will there be a aha moment in media as it evolves moving forward? What do you see coming forward? Oh, you know what? That is a transitional moment. That is the milestone moment, or that's the key area, the key thing that changed media for this digital, to stick to the topic that we have, right? The media of the Web 3.0. I don't like the Web 3.0, but the shifting landscape. So what is it that will shift, and what would it be that we can say, this is the marker, this is the stake in the ground, this is where it started, or this is how we can say it moved forward? Anyone?
Yeah, can I just?
Okay, sorry.
Oh,
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to say, if we go back to the video that was just before us of the young people talking about what their experience of media was, the key thing there, they were coming up with trust. And I think Web 3.0 offers us the opportunity. We haven't talked about it, but I can see it buzzing in the background, especially after looking at the pre-chat we had about blockchain, NFTs, etc., beginning to be integrated into media production and media delivery, so that you can start to see trust. There's a huge amount of work going on in Europe, the US, and other areas, the ITU. Especially in the standards bodies, about how do we maintain trust, how do we actually verify content. If we can extend that and keep that message going, then I think what you're getting is a completely different view of media. Another one, it's reliable, the source is identifiable, the content is verifiable, and then you have the technology of 3.0 to actually deliver it and to make sure that whole system, that whole ecosystem is secure. So I think that could be a game changer, and we will see less influence of fake news. We've all seen with the pandemic how damaging fake news was, and how many trusted people got, as we call it in the UK, drawn down rabbit holes. That's basically the Alice in Wonderland scenario. We get drawn down rabbit holes of something that is totally unreal, but you're so immersed in it that you can't get back out again. So that's my comment. I'm sure others will have a better comment.
I
Anybody
agree
else
with
on
that.
that? Go ahead.
I agree with that, Andy. Actually, when I was listening to those youth speaking, it was fascinated because one of them spoke about fake news, and me coming from India, which is almost a subcontinent, 22 or so national languages, you name any religion in the world that exists in India, and the languages and the people, the culture. And in India, I feel that fake news, for example, is one of the biggest factors which takes our society backwards. And if we could employ the right technologies, and I see blockchain really playing a very important role out there, we should be able to track and trap the people or the agencies who are working to make the societies not move forward towards success. Apart from that, if I speak only from the business within the media industry and from the benefit perspective, then the piracy element might be wiped out as we move forward with technologies like AI, blockchain, and crypto. And of course, crypto is going to help in the payments, etc. That impacts negatively the media industry, especially in the developing world. So I think that you are dot on spot, Andy, that the technologies that are under the Web 3.0 would impact the media industry in a positive way, thereby bringing its best face forward towards the consumer, and especially people in India would start believing that yes, what is coming in media is correct, which we don't right now. Thank you.
Amal, you had something to say?
Yeah. What I was trying to say at that time was, if the transition that we would like to have with the Web 3.0 would be, if we can assure using these technologies that what we really want for the society, which is the information that what we disseminate is tested for its trueness, and then so we can improve the reliability and the accuracy of that one using the technologies again. So it's not just technology driven, but we can deploy those advancing technologies such as both AI and blockchain technologies, and also maybe more distributed manner, because that's one of the key technologies. So that goes quite well with the Web 3.0 if you look at that evolution of connectivity.
So if I pick up some of the keywords that was mentioned earlier, things like crypto and blockchain and stuff like that, how do we ensure as a society and as practitioners in the different parts of the industry that we are coming from, and myself as an engineer and as a open source advocate, how do I trust any of these technologies that are supposed to help impose trust? How would I trust that something that is put on a blockchain, for example, NFT as an example, that really is what that is? How do I ensure all of those things? And especially for those who don't even understand what these things are. If you look at a bell curve, these kinds of considerations are at a starting point. It hasn't reached mainstream at all. So how do we ensure as a group that we hit as many people in a useful fashion rather than a small playground for people to try things out and so on? So let me put this out there. How do you think any of these things will impact, especially when we talk about empowering and enabling I think it's still half the world's population to get onto this thing called the internet to begin with? Not even talking about Web 3.0 and anything.
Yeah, that's a very interesting and very difficult question at the same time. Let me tell you what I think about it. I think it's exactly like technology and experience and content. You're talking about NFTs and blockchain. Clearly, what we can see right now in the sports industry is that all the, I would say, the sport IP owners, they're rushing into NFTs. It's like a treasure hunt, just honestly, because they want to make money out of it, because they feel, okay, it's super fashionable, I have to do it. But the results can be very different, and there was a kind of kind of a rush at the beginning. It looks like it's slowing down now because people are saying, okay, what's the point? And I just have this example. There is an American stakeholder who just bought a French basketball team named Orthez in southwest of France. And for the first time, they delivered NFTs. But thanks to these NFTs, not only you can have, some, I would say, what money can buy experience, close to the teams or stuff like that, or backstage. But on top of that, you can elect someone that as a board member. So you can also, so it's a kind of, how can I say that, equity 3.0, you're not obviously an equity owner, but you're not just only a kind of NFT superficial owner either. You're somewhere in the middle, and I think that's an interesting move. So fans can be can have some unique experiences, but they can also be part of some of the decisions, of the board, and in a kind of participative democracy, in a way where you want to include people in the process of development of their clubs. That is something that I think it's interesting. So once again, it's what's the point if and you cannot, to finish on that, I would say you cannot shit on people. If they feel like it's only a way to make money, okay, the hardcore fans will probably dive into at the beginning, but then that's going to be it. So you're going to be super constructive to make a durable and sustainable business with blockchain and NFTs, I think.
Thank you, Arno. Anybody else, any comments to add to that?
Yeah, I would like to add to that, Harry said, last week I heard on our public TV reporting the case around NFT, how actually he's a New Zealand sort of almost like a schoolboy who created these NFTs and then could not make the promise. What he promised he could not deliver, and now there's a case. And also at the same week, they reported about what's happening around the cryptocurrency, the drop around that. So the public media did not say don't do that, but said you need to take a precaution. I think people should not rush, and these are some of the technologies that need more scrutiny and improvements. And so as I told at the beginning, my team, my like a main message is around challenges and opportunities. So the challenges are around those. I don't want to use the word regulation, but we could see already the regulation in action for some of the things that are happening for Web 2.0. So if I very quickly remind you, in Australia, the Facebook was blocked for 1 week, and they could not they deliver the message for COVID messages because the public broadcast, everyone using extensively, not just over there, they use all other distribution channel to do that. So so one can take sort of a hostage on that one. So the message is we need to have various kind of control mechanisms to make sure that it's beneficial to the society. So I could see it's already happening from the society itself, not because it's not the sort of in any government, the government saying things, but the public itself responding to those. We could see this even happening for one of the big OTT company. The employees are standing against certain things. So you could see, so that's the kind of democracy, and then how the technology and the society matures. This would evolve, I would say, because that's how we could make a more safer and inclusive society.
Okay, can I then maybe bring everybody back here as a way to round out what we have just spoken about? And I would like to probably pose this question to all of you as your statement to rounding off this entire session. What about the ethics behind all of this? What are the ethical questions that you think you need to be asking and trying to seek some clarity around? Especially, one aspect would be AI ethics, and the other aspect would be about ethics in media and so on. How does the fact that we have a digital media available, a digital means to send information, where are the ethical boundaries to any of these? So this would be the final wrap-ups question to you. It's probably a very hard one to answer, but try your best, and I look forward to hearing all of you. So let me start with the person on my screen at the bottom of my screen. I'll start off with Ajay first.
So That's a very spiritual question. That's a very spiritual question per se, but I believe that everybody has ethics, and I don't think so any industry or industrialists would want to do business without ethics. But sometimes, or most of the times, things go awry, and to control that, technology is definitely helpful. And that is why you would see because there were problems around piracy, there was problems around payments, there was problems around production, that we see the blockchains and the cryptos and the various other technologies gaining prominence. So I think technology would help in maintaining the ethics of the media industry, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. So can I call Arnav for your comments on that?
Oh yeah, I mean, I was thinking very hard about it, because the question is super difficult. What comes to my mind is to say we're not in a world now where Big Brother is watching you. You're watching Big Brother, and so probably the answer would be to trust in people's responsibility and capacity to a kind of self-regulation. Maybe it's a little bit utopic to think about that, but in a way, I think, and we can see that also, especially when you look at the youngsters, how do they behave, with social, and they in a way that they manage all these tools and all this technology in a smart way, and they are very careful. And it's not true to say that they believe everything, that they have a kind of skepticism that is super useful. So my answer would be, and maybe it's a hope that there will be a self-regulation from people themselves, because they are the ones using these new technology tools.
Thank you, Arnav. Amal?
Yeah, so my take, I'll start looking at myself because I'm as an engineer, I'm bounded by ethics of all three professional bodies I'm affiliated to. But when you look at anyone else or any other organization, it's hard to imagine. You hear many times those violations, but I'm sure with certain developments, it might open up even if an organization operating unethically. So we have seen some whistleblowers. This happened with some of the AI experts in certain organizations. They later said this is what's happening inside, because they simply bound by other rules inside working. So as like other two speakers mentioned, so it's extremely hard to predict, but I think it's something that needs to evolve with the evolution of this one, because it's not being very self-centered. Yeah.
Thank you, Amal. And Andy?
Yeah, I mean, it's just picking up from what Arno was saying, regulation. I think we have to be really careful, otherwise I tend to find regulation is imposed by people who can't use the technology and who don't understand what's going on, and that tends to then lead to regulation. And the comment about kids knowing exactly what they're up to is really true, but I think the one big thing that's missing is education there. So it's internet ethics should be taught from year zero at school. Before we've even most kids can use a pad or a device, and you've seen this idea of kids getting magazines and trying to scroll left and right with a piece of paper. We're living in a very different world, and if we can start that education, by the time some of this becomes, by the time we talk about Web 4.0 or 5.0, the next generation should be just as comfortable as we are with print and sort of visual media. So I think if we can achieve that, then the ethics actually, as was said, will be self-regulating. Thanks.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. I think that has been a very useful session. I hope the audience who are attending and listening to us now are finding this to be reasonably useful. And I think with that, I would like to wrap this up. So thank you very much, all of you, Andy, Arno, Amal, and Ajay, for being on this panel, and also for all of you who have been listening to this and the comments that I see on the chat. So thank you very much, and AIDB, it's over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for moderating that session, Mr. Pillay. And thank you especially to our amazing panelists for that amazing discussion and for your insight with us this morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on wherever you're joining us from. And of course, our session sponsor, Vessel. Up next, our content showcase.